Goloka. All right. Well, it's good to see everybody. Oh, got some newcomers today. All right. We'll get started in about a minute and a half. Wadi Leela's in South America. Trapped in South America. Haven't seen you for a while. We got people in America, we got people in South America, we got people in New Zealand, and wow, someone in Hawaii, the country of Hawaii. Looks like Duryodhana. Anyway, this is we were going to speak about Duryodhana today, but anyway, let's just use your picture instead. And okay, we'll get a few more people to join us. Shruti Priya is there, Gokubandhu in Fiji, Namaruchi is there, Champagalata in the United States, one of the gopis is there in America, and Krishna Chandra, Ratanaleka, Nalini Kant, Radha Padma, and anyway, it's nice. We got a whole bunch of people. Okay, so we have a special. Whoops, don't want to hit the camera. We have a special program tonight. It's a very special day in the calendar. In case any of you have not checked your calendar regularly, and okay, so Arjuna told me to put it on speaker view. Thank you, Arjuna. So we have a very special day of the calendar, and it's called Akshaya Tritiya. Those of you from India know what that means. And I'm going to explain to you what happened on this particular day and some of the things that are associated with that occasion of Akshaya Tritiya. But first, we're going to chant a little bit because it's 6 o'clock here. Right now it's 9 o'clock, no, 10 o'clock, I'm sorry, in New Zealand, and 8 o'clock in Australia. And in Europe, it's too late for you. If you're in Europe, you should go to sleep right now instead of watching this. And Hawaii, God knows what time it is there. Anyway, you should be surfing Mayapur now. Anyway, so we're going to, okay, everybody put your stuff on mute. Mute means, for those of you who speak Hindi, chuparo. That's Hindi for shut up. Anyway, so as you see, we're very relaxed on these occasions. Actually, this method of interacting with the devotees is very wonderful. Put your thing on mute, whoever is talking. So this method of interacting with the devotees is very wonderful because we can see everybody, we can talk, we can have discussions. So first of all, we'll chant a little bit before our discussion about Akshaya Tritiya today. And you are welcome to chant along if you're on mute, because the internet has this sort of delay that if we were going to chant and respond, it wouldn't work with the internet because you'd all be responding at a different time. So you'll get a chance to hear me chant, and you'll get a chance to chant at home in response. So we will start. Namaham Vishanupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samindhiti Namande Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminhiti Namante Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sunyavati Paschacha Dejatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sunyavati Paschacha Dejatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Bo Jai Gaurani Bo, Haribo, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai, go Premananda Haribol. All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, Om Gana Timirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, as I mentioned, today is Akshaya Tritiya, a very special day, and some parts of the world is considered to be like the springtime is coming. Actually, in Vrindavan right now, it is not that hot. I was speaking to some people in Vrindavan, and unfortunately, most of the devotees in Vrindavan, they can't even go to the temple. They're in lockdown. So even though they may live like 2 minutes away, 1 minute away walking from the temple, they can't even go to the temple. It's a very unfortunate circumstance, and it looks like that until the end of June, Uttar Pradesh is going to be on a lockdown situation. So we ask you all to pray for those devotees. I've been trying to bring some of them back to America, but flights are also canceled up until about the 3rd of May. So we will see, but pray for the devotees who are locked down. Of course, it's one of the best places to be locked down is in Braj. So, Akshaya Tritiya. So today is a very auspicious day for a number of reasons, and I'm going to give the historical context in a second. But in India, it's considered a great day to start a business. Of course, not during the lockdown, obviously. And it's also a great day for someone to get married. So for those of you who want to get married, you missed your opportunity this year, you got to wait another year to get married. So it's a great day to start anything according to the calendar. So, but why is it considered a great day? What happened historically on this particular day? So this is a day that, to me, it reminds me of Krishna's protection of his devotees. And I'll tell you why. And we're going to tell some stories about Krishna's protection of his devotees. The main story that's told on this day that's considered to be a memory on this day, or what happened on this particular day, is a particular story involving Durvasa Muni. And in order to tell that story, I am going to show some pictures for you all. This is not a whole slideshow, but it's a few pictures I put together a few minutes ago before class. So this is my friend Durvasa Muni. I'd like to introduce him to all of you. Actually, looks a little bit like my poor Chandra. Anyway, so this is my friend Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni is a very interesting personality. He's considered to be a anga or expansion of Lord Shiva. Now, the interesting thing about Lord Shiva is that he's called Ashutosh. Ashutosh means he's easily pleased and easily angered. So you got to be real careful around him to please him. And so Durvasa Muni is in that particular mood. He's very easily angered, and I'm going to tell a story about his getting easily angered. And this story did not occur in Akshaya Tritiya, but there's another story that occurred on this particular day in relationship to Durvasa Muni. So the story I'm going to tell, whoops, hopefully we can advance these slides. Yes, is the story of Maharaj Ambarish. So this is not a Maharaj Ambarish you see in the picture. That is Durvasa Muni. And he is being chased by Krishna's Sudarshana chakra disc. Now, why is this great Muni sage expansion of Lord Shiva being chased and almost killed by the great disc of Lord Krishna? Actually, this is the ultimate weapon. It's interesting. I was listening to a class given by one of the Guru Kulis the other day, and he didn't mention the chakra as far as one of the weapons at the Battle of Kurukshetra. So, what happens? To make a long story short, Durvasa Muni got very angry with Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish was a great devotee of the Lord. The devotees are always protected by the Sudarshan chakra of the Lord. And so, therefore, it's very important to always be nice to the devotees. If you're not nice, then boo, you may get in trouble from the Sudarshana chakra. Just like Krishna, in the form of Lord Vishnu, has different symbols. One is the chakra, of course, there's the club, the conch, and the lotus. So the lotus and the conch shell are meant for blessing the devotees, and the club and the chakra are meant for taking care of the people we call miscreants. Miscreants means the bad guys. Okay? So Durvasa Muni is not a bad guy. But what happened is that he approached Maharaj Ambarish when Maharaj Ambarish was finishing a ritualistic fast for many, many days. And Maharaj Ambarish was getting ready to take prasadam, which you have to do at the end of this ritualistic fast. And so the whole point of etiquette and hospitality is that when a guest comes, you also have to receive them first. You can't eat before they eat. That is Vedic hospitality. So Maharaj Ambarish basically was caught in the horns of a dilemma. The dilemma was, I have to break the fast now to just like do this ritual properly, or I have to wait until Durvasa comes back after bathing to feed him and then break the fast, but then I'll be breaking the fast at the wrong time and the whole ritual will be kaput. That's a Hindi word for ruined. So anyway, so what happened is that he was thinking, well, I'll break the fast, but not break the fast by taking some water, which is breaking the fast. Now, Maruchi, put yourself on mute, please. Thank you. So he did that. But Durvasa Muni, when he came back, was so angry because I mentioned he's very easily angered, very easily pleased, that Ambarish had taken food before him, or taken water before he, the guest, had taken. And so Durvasa Muni pulled out one of his hairs. I don't have too many hairs to pull out, but anyway, he pulled out one of his hairs. And he just threw the hair on the ground. The hair became a demon, or, some threatening entity, and threatened Maharaj Ambarish. But Maharaj Ambarish, he had full faith, because Durvasa is a yogi. Durvasa can create things basically out of nothing. And so Maharaj Ambarish, being a great devotee, he thought Krishna will protect me, and he didn't pay much attention to this demon, Rakshasa, or whatever it was. And Krishna sent his Sudarshan disc not only to get rid of this demon, or Rakshasa, or entity that was attacking Ambarish, but to start chasing Durvasa, to teach him a lesson. So this Durvasa Muni, he was chased from one end of the creation to the other, and then finally he goes to see Lord Vishnu, Krishna, and he says, save me, Pahimam, Pahimam. And Krishna says, I can't save you because you've offended my devotee. The only thing that can save you is if you get forgiveness from my devotee. So he goes to Maharaj Ambarish, begs for forgiveness. Maharaj Ambarish, of course, is harboring no grudge. Devotees have no grudges, no enemies, as Lord Kapila Dev says. Jata Shatrava Shanta Sadhava Siddhabhushana. One of the qualities of a saint is that he's forgiving. He has no enemies. He doesn't hate anyone. So this is what we should look for. Someone who has no enemies. That's called ajata shatrava, which basically means his enemy is never born, or someone is never considered to be that person's enemy. Of course, the other person may not like the saintly person. The other person may think that the saintly person is his enemy, but a saintly person has no enemies. He doesn't hate anyone. Remember that. Okay, so Ambarish, he naturally forgave the Rasamuni, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, so that's a little background behind the Akshaya Tritiya story, but that didn't happen on this particular day. What happened on this particular day is something else. There's this very nice person. This is Dr. Rasamuni. His name is Duryodhana. I took a picture of him 5,000 years ago just so you can all see what he looks like. So Duryodhana was actually one of the bad guys in the Mahabharata war. In fact, he was the head of all of Dhritarashtra's sons, 100 sons, and he was planning continually how to get even or to kill or to take over the kingdom from the Pandavas, who are the good guys, the Pancha Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas. And so he is just the essence of evil. He was considered to be actually the personality of Kali Yuga incarnate in the previous Yuga. So Kali means quarrel, deception, bad relationships, Iron Age, and also the 4 principles of Kali. The 4 principles of religion are gone. Cleanliness, mercifulness, truthfulness, and austerity. They're gone. And there's little truthfulness left in Kali Yuga, in this Yuga, which started a little over 5,000 years ago. But that truthfulness is just about gone. I mean, just look at the internet now, or read the news on the internet, and you'll see that it's wild. It's wild. Our leaders do not know how to tell the truth. And even if they knew how to tell the truth, they're not telling the truth, or they're cheating and manipulating people. Wow. It's a bad scene today. There's Kali Yuga. So that's him, Duryodhana. So one of the plans Duryodhana had after sending the Pandavas into exile was to get Durvasa Muni. This is actually what happened today on Akshaya Tritiya. So to get Durvasa Muni angry at the Pandavas, so that he would curse the Pandavas. Because when Durvasa Muni, being a Muni, curses someone, he's finished. So this particular person, Duryodhana, his plan was to send Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 or 10 million disciples, was quite a bit, to visit the Pandavas right after the Pandavas had taken prasadam. Now, you may say, so what's the big deal right after the Pandavas had taken prasadam? Because the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas and their wife, Draupadi, had been given this very nice pot. It's not something you smoke, for those of you who are young. They were given a pot. That means something you cook with, just to be clear. Or in Spanish, olla. That means something you cook with. So they were given this very nice pot that had the potency that could feed unlimited amounts of people until Draupadi herself ate. So this Duryodhana character, he wanted Durvasa Muni to go there after Draupadi ate, and Durvasa Muni would be hungry, wanting to eat, and his 10,000 or 10 million disciples would want to eat. And there wouldn't be anything to eat, and that's it. That's the end of the Pandavas as far as Duryodhana was concerned. So Durvasa Muni goes there with his 10 million or 10,000 disciples after Draupadi had eaten, and nobody knew what to do. Everyone was bewildered. They thought everything is finished. So in that particular case, this happened on Akshaya Tritiya. Draupadi, she started crying to Krishna. And Krishna came. There's Krishna. So Krishna came, and basically, this is the point, that Krishna's there in his holy names. Krishna hears you when you're calling. There's actually a famous song that was written by Madhava Sangani about Krishna coming. Anyway, he hears you. No, I wrote that. Krishna, you hear me when I'm calling. Yeah, I wrote that song. Anyway, so Krishna came, and he said to Draupadi, he was holding the pot that you see here, "Can I have something to eat?" And Draupadi felt doubly bad because she couldn't feed Durvasa Muni. Previously, they had sent Durvasa Muni away to bathe before he would take prasadam. So because she couldn't feed Durvasa Muni, and now she couldn't feed Krishna, she thought, oh, now I'm finished. And Krishna said, "Give me the pot, and I'll find something to eat in the pot." And he looked in the pot, and he found, what did he find? He found a little morsel of rice. It's sometimes called Akshaya Patra, and that's only Akshaya Tritiya. So he found a little morsel of rice, and he ate that rice. And guess what happened? As you see up there, whoops, let's see if I can, no, anyway, I can't do that. As you see up there, there's Durvasa Muni and his disciples bathing. That when Krishna gets satisfied, the whole world is satisfied. So when Krishna ate a little rice, one little chip of rice, then Durvasa Muni and his disciples, they started to burp, even though they had not eaten. And their stomachs got inflated, and they just felt completely full, and they decided not to come back to the Pandavas because they were afraid of offending the Pandavas, because they thought the Pandavas had prepared a great meal for them. So this is actually the point of this particular day, that if we take shelter of Krishna, then everything's auspicious. Krishna is always protecting us. Krishna, whoops, that's not the slide I wanted right now. So Krishna is always protecting us. Krishna is always maintaining us. And Krishna is giving us happiness, because we all want to be happy, and the only way we can really be ecstatic is by being Krishna conscious. That's our nature. Because if you do something different than your nature, you can't be happy. And the example Prabhupada gave often was, if you're a fish, you can't be happy on dry land, even if someone buys you a nice computer. I don't know what a fish would do with a computer. Or even a fish. You know, the example is the fish belongs in the water, and we belong with Krishna. That's why we keep trying for happiness in this world, and we keep getting frustrated. As that wonderful song goes, can't get no satisfaction, but I tried and I tried and I tried. So that's the nature. That's the nature of this world. So that's the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Now, there are other stories, and at the end of this particular, I wouldn't say presentation or discussion, I'm going to ask some of you to participate and give me more stories about how Krishna protects his devotees, or Krishna protects people. Now I'm going to mention one or two more stories which did not occur on this particular day, Akshaya Tritiya, but this story of Draupadi being protected and the Pandavas being protected by Krishna did occur today. So we remember this story today. So let's go on to more stories of Krishna protecting his devotees. Another story is also involving the Pandavas. There was a gambling match, and you see this nice gambling match. The Pandavas Yudhisthira Maharaj, that is, the head of the Pandavas, gambled away everything, their kingdom, his brothers, and even his wife, Draupadi, who is depicted here. So she realized that actually in this world, there's no material protection that works. She realized that because here she had 5 husbands. Don't try that at home. I think one husband's enough to cope with. That's called polyandry, where a lady has 5 husbands. Actually, it's an interesting story about Draupadi. She was asked one time by Satyabhama, Krishna's wife, how do you keep your 5 husbands happy? Do you have some magic potion or something like that? And Draupadi answered, no. The way I keep my 5 husbands happy is I wake up before they do in the morning. I get everything ready. I'm smiling all the time. And I go to sleep after they go to sleep. It's pretty hard. So this is probably the greatest austerity any lady has ever done, having 5 husbands. So, and the reason she had 5 husbands was basically it's her fault, because in her last life she asked for 5 husbands inadvertently. She was praying to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva said, what do you want? And she said to Lord Shiva, I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband, I want a husband. And Lord Shiva said, 5 times, 5 husbands, that's what you get. So you got to be careful what you ask for. So, especially with the demigods. So anyway, the Pandavas, they actually gambled away their wife. And that shows how bad gambling is. You may think, who's going to gamble away their wife? However, if you ever go to Las Vegas, hopefully not to gamble, you will see that outside of the casinos, they actually have a notary public. What does a notary public do? He allows you to sign the title of your car away. Amazing. So people lose everything. And I know people who have gambled, even devotees who were addicted to the gambling, and they lost. Some of them lost $100,000 or euros a night because it's a fever. You get into a whole fever of getting something for nothing. And, of cheating in games, gambling stands supreme according to Krishna. So, anyway, so they gambled away their wife, and she understood she had no other protection other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the guy you see there who is holding on to her sari, his name is Dushashan. And he is getting ready because he thought he and his brothers, of course the brothers were headed up by Duryodhana, had won Draupadi. He was getting ready just to strip her in the whole assembly house. So then she started praying to Krishna. Remember, Krishna's the protector, the ultimate protector. So she started praying to Krishna, and guess what? There's Krishna. He supplied her unlimited sari. And this guy, Dushashan, became so exhausted that basically he probably had several kilometers of cloth by the time he was finished. And so Krishna protected her. So this is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's always protecting the devotees. This is a cartoon version of it. So if we take shelter of Krishna, then we will always be protected in this world. That doesn't mean we're always going to live forever. No. But we'll be protected. Our morals, our life, our spirituality, everything that's important will be protected. So remember that. And Krishna is present in his holy names. And that's Draupadi. She started to chant Krishna's name, and Krishna manifested himself because she chanted his name. Another story that's very important is the story of Gajendra Mokshana. So this was a particular devotee because he had committed an offense. It was actually a king who had committed an offense. He got cursed to be an elephant, And this elephant was having a fight with a crocodile. And he remembered prayers that he had learned from his previous life. And this is actually interesting, that if someone becomes a great devotee, normally you don't become elephants. If someone becomes a great devotee, then their devotional service, or any type of devotee, even a little advancement, as Krishna says, saves one from the most dangerous type of fear. So just a little bit of advancement, and you'll remember your devotional service. And just wow, when you actually come to Krishna consciousness, you think, wow, deja vu. I've been here before. I remember the first time I circumambulated Tulsi Devi. And Tulsi Devi, not the lady Tulsi Devi who's here in New Goloka. I never circumambulated her. But the plant, Tulsi Devi, was very dear to Krishna. Then I just had this sudden recollection, remembrance. Wow, I've been doing this before. And this was the first time I actually did it in this lifetime. And when I saw Prabhupada, I instantly remembered, wow, here's my spiritual master. So this is called Deja Vu Prabhu, which means that you remember your past life, at least you get a brief glimpse or a small glimpse of what you were doing before. So we find that quite often when we're reaching out and presenting Krishna consciousness to people, that people just, wow, this is it. Even before I say anything to them, even before I explain the Krishna conscious understanding of things, they said, wow, welcome home. So this elephant, Gajendra, who was previously King Indra Jr., he remembered his past life, and he was able to offer prayers. And when he was able to offer prayers, the same thing, the transcendental sound vibration manifested the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's very important. Namachintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnashida Nityamukto Viratvam Namanamino. That the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. Krishna is dancing on the tip of our tongues when we're chanting his name. If we're not feeling ecstasy when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're doing something wrong. Not that Krishna is doing something wrong. We are doing something wrong. So anyway, Krishna manifested himself and saved Gajendra by taking the mouth or the jaw of the crocodile off, and Gajendra was saved. And of course, there's the famous story of Ajamil, who inadvertently chanted the holy name, right? Not even meaning the holy name, he was just chanting the name of his son, Narayan. So those of you who are not familiar with this particular pastime, this is similar to what happens, not for all of us, hopefully not for me, but similar to what happens at the time of leaving the body. It's very interesting. Let me just tell a little story about one of our devotees here who used to go out a lot and distribute Prabhupada's books in different places like airports and rest stops and things like that. So she was out one day and she was talking to some morticians. A mortician is someone who prepares the body after someone dies. And if any of you have seen the Addams Family, there's the lady with the name Morticia. So anyway, so morticians do that. And so she was asking them, what sort of expression do people have on their faces when you're preparing the body? You know, in other words, what were they seeing? What were they experiencing at the time of leaving the body? And some of them answered that they look very peaceful. And then she asked them, but what about before they started using anesthesia on people? Because these were older morticians. Actually, this story must have happened 30 or 40 years ago. which is a long time ago. So they answer, she asked them, do they ever look like at the time of leaving the body? And the morticians turned white and practically they almost fainted because they remembered. So anyway, so getting back to the story without frightening any of you, at the time of leaving the body, this Jamil, who had done a lot of horrible things in his life, I mean, basically neglected or killed by neglect his parents, his wife, his actual good wife, and anyway, did so many horrible things, which are called vikarmic things, and he had to undergo some punishment, but he chanted the name of Krishna, Narayan, Narayan, and Krishna saved him as a result. Isn't that wonderful? Krishna saves the devotees when the devotees remember him, even inadvertently. Accidentally, that's called namabhash, chanting the Lord's holy names. And the final example I'm going to give is Srila Prabhupada's example. So this is Srila Prabhupada. It's obviously, it's a depiction, not actual picture. It's a depiction of Srila Prabhupada coming over to America on the boat named Jaladuta. Jaladuta, actually, the word means the sea messenger, which is actually a very appropriate name. So Srila Prabhupada left India in 1965, and he had no money. He was like 70 years old and had some health difficulties. And he could only afford, or couldn't even afford, but he had a free passage on the boat. And the reason he was given the free passage is that he had approached the owner of the boat company, the Scindia Steamship Company, Sumati Moraji, and she had given him this free passage. And basically, other than that, he just had maybe 40 rupees with him, which was basically an hour's worth of spending in New York, which was his ultimate destination. So on that boat, he got very sick. In fact, he had 2 heart attacks. And he was thinking that he was going to leave his body. But Krishna saved him. And Krishna manifested this wonderful dream to Srila Prabhupada. What was that dream? That Krishna and his various incarnations and avatars, which you see here, I think you can see the avatars here. You see, Balaram, actually you even see Lord Ramchandra. Wow, you got even Parshuram there. It looks like Veda Vyas and Gornatai, Kijai, and Shringadev, and Korma, and Varaha, and the Hangsa avatar. And you see all these different avatars, incarnations of Krishna. And he saw them in his dream. They were all rowing the boat, carrying him across the ocean to America. And as a result, because of this protection, Prabhupada was always protected. He was able to come to America, and as a result, we are here today. So this is another evidence, one more evidence of Krishna's protection. Okay. So these are some of the examples I wanted to give today on Akshaya Tritiya. And I wanted to ask some of you for examples of how Krishna, you can take from Shastra, that would be very good, how Krishna protects his devotees. That's the topic of today's discussion. So does anyone have any examples? And you can speak up.
Maharaj Parikshit, Gurudev?
Oh yeah, Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit. Perfect example. Whoops, I just kicked my camera. I don't want to do that. So Maharaj Parikshit was protected in the womb. Actually, what happened was that this terrible guy, Ashwatthama, had fired this weapon called the Brahmastra weapon. Brahma Astra, that means the weapon of Lord Brahma. And this weapon was so powerful It was actually more powerful than an atomic bomb. It could destroy basically the whole world, or even more than that. It was more powerful than the atomic bomb, and it could be focused on one particular object. So this Ashwatam guy, he focused it on the embryo in Uttara's womb. Uttara, of course, was the mother of Maharaj Parikshit. She was pregnant with Maharaj Parikshit at that particular time. Of course, he wasn't known as Maharaj Parikshit until he was born. And so he fired this weapon. And then what Krishna did is he protected the womb of Uttara and protected the body of Parikshit Maharaj. Some stories say that he gave him a new body. There's actually two versions of the story. But in any case, he protected this embryo in the womb, and Parikshit was always known as Vishnu Rata, which means the person who has been protected or saved by Lord Vishnu. And Uttara was chanting the names of Krishna too. Krishna was right there too in this particular pastime. That's a wonderful story. Very, very wonderful story about how Krishna protects his devotees. So, who has another Shastric story?
Prahlad Maharaj and Raghunath Das Goswami.
What's that? Oh, Raghunath Das Goswami?
Yeah.
You want me to tell us? That's a pretty Rasika story, you know. You mean how he was protected by Krishna and Radharani, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a story where he shouldn't have taken Krishna's protection. So Raghunath Das Goswami was a great devotee, is a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of God. This is over 500 years ago this story occurred. And he stayed in a place called Radha Kund, actually Shama Kund. He stayed right at this bathing place. It's called the Manasa Pavana Ghat. And every day he would go out to chant the holy names of the Lord. But he was so austere, he didn't want to waste any time doing anything, constructing a house or taking any care of himself, that he would just go out and chant the holy names, whether it was rain or shine, or there were animals out there. At that time, in that part of India, there were tigers. And also during the summer, as it is now, it was so hot that, let's say in centigrade, it was over 50 degrees in the middle of the summer. That's quite hot. For those of you who know about 50 degrees, it's over 125, 130 degrees. It's pretty hot. I've been there in the summer because I didn't stay outside chanting during the summer. I put my air conditioner on. I'm not Raghunath Das Goswami. I went inside after 9 o'clock in the morning and said, I ain't going outside again. And didn't go outside at all. Some of the devotees who are watching us were with me during the summer there. So anyway, so Raghunath Das Goswami didn't take any care. He just went out there. And what happened is that Krishna personally protected him from the tigers by holding the stick. And he didn't see that because Krishna was behind him. And Radharani personally protected him from the sun by holding her shawl, like over his head, something like that, to protect him from the sun. So what happened is that once upon a time, another great devotee came and saw what Krishna was doing, protecting him from the tigers. And this great devotee named Sanatana Goswami chastised Raghunath Das Goswami, said, you know, you should not take service from the Lord. Build yourself what's called a kutir. Kutir means a little place where you live, like a room. Like you see, my house is not a kutir, it's quite big. I am not Raghunath Das Goswami. I'm a sannyasi who owns a house. Anyway, so, not a householder either, a sannyasi who has a house. So, it's actually quite large. his kitchen, the rest of the house, and 2 more rooms. So Raghunath Das Goswami was not like me, Kali Yuga Sannyasi. He did not build himself a kutir or a place to live. And so next time Sanatan Goswami came back and he saw Radharani shielding Raghunath Das Goswami from the sun, and this time he doubly chastised him, and Raghunath Das Goswami built himself a tiny little room. What I mean by tiny room is maybe 6 feet wide by 10 feet in length. This is not an opulent place. Because he said that you should not take shelter from Radharani and not take shelter from Krishna. So that's interesting because I said that Krishna protects one, yet Raghunath Das Goswami was getting chastised. Well, the point is that one should make some endeavor, given the intelligence and the tools and the ability that Krishna gives you to protect yourself. That's not against Krishna consciousness, obviously. We wear seatbelts. And when I go to India and on my way to Mayapur, I put a helmet on. And I'm not talking about in a motorcycle. I put a helmet on in a car because it's dangerous, very dangerous. And I stay awake and I watch. One time I was going to Vrindavan, and the driver kept falling to sleep, and I have to keep waking him up. It's not that I said, oh, Krishna will keep waking him up. Krishna will protect me. And finally, I forced the driver to drink some tea. I said, you have to get some tea. And he said, no, I don't take tea. I said, you're taking tea, whether you like it or not. And so he took tea, and he stayed awake. So we have to take precautions like that. Thank you for asking me that story. And I think Gopal has a question. He raised his hand. So Gopal, do you have something to say?
Well, I was just remembering the story of Haridas Thakur, and when Lord Chaitanya was revealing himself as Krishna, and he told Haridas that when you were getting beaten in all those marketplaces, and he showed his back, and all of the scars from the whips were on Lord Chaitanya's back.
That's nice. So I guess you want me to tell that story. So Haridas Thakur was getting beaten in 22 marketplaces, and the reason he was getting beaten is because he did not want to stop chanting Hare Krishna. And the Muslims, they were actually trying to get him to stop because he was born in a Muslim family. They were pretty upset that he was chanting the names of the Lord. And what happened at that point is that he made himself unconscious, so they thought he had died. They threw him in a river, and he had yogic powers, of course. And after a few minutes or a few hours, he floated down the river and got up and continued to chant. And the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed to him later on that I actually protected your back. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his own back, and there were the lash marks on Lord Chaitanya's back. As I said, don't take advantage of that. If you can protect yourself, do it. Don't think that Krishna has to do everything. There's that typical story Prabhupada told about a man who was a great devotee of God. And he thought, God will always protect me. I'm not going to do anything for myself. So once upon a time, there was a flood. And it was a dangerous flood because it was going to envelop the whole house. And so the waters kept rising. And then the police came on a boat and said to the man, hop in the boat, we're going to save you. And he said, no, God will protect me always. And so then the waters kept rising, 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 rising. Finally, this man was on top of his house and the waters were rising, and the police sent a helicopter, lowered a rope, and they said, grab onto the rope, we're going to save you, buddy. And he said, no, I have faith in God. And the waters kept rising, and he died. And then he went back to see God, and basically he said to God, why the, I wouldn't say H-E-double-L, but, why the heck didn't you save me? And God said to him, "You fool, didn't you see the boat and the helicopter I sent for you?" So the whole idea is, God helps those who help themselves. So you got to help yourself. And if you become unable, like Draupadi was with Dushashan and Duryodhana, then at that point, yes, the only recourse is Krishna. But we should always be remembering Krishna. If we're always remembering Krishna, then Krishna will give us the intelligence how to respond to each and every situation. As Krishna says in the Gita, 15th chapter, I'm the intelligence of the intelligence of the intelligent people. Okay, hopefully we have some intelligence. Okay, Gopi, you have a question. Take yourself off of mute and ask the question.
Yeah, well, I had two things that stuck out for me. One was because in seeing the picture of Durvasamuni and the Sudarshan chakra was when Krishna covered the sun during the Mahabharata war for Arjuna, as a trick to make it look like the day had ended to protect him, was one of my memories. But then I was also thinking even more about Shishupal and how one of the things that Krishna said in that whole interaction when, somebody asked him, or said, the punishment shouldn't be greater than the sin. And he was like, but it's, a way of protecting him by ending his life so that he doesn't commit more sins. And I was just thinking how merciful Krishna is to really everybody, actually.
Well, I hope Krishna doesn't end my life so I don't commit
No,
anymore.
I don't think he will.
Oh my God. All right, so the story Gopi told was the story that Arjuna had taken the vow to kill this, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but to kill this particular individual, Jayadrath, before the sun set the next day. And this was in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Then, Jayadrath was so well protected that Arjuna could not get to him before the sun set. It was actually going to be impossible. So Krishna made it appear that the sun set prematurely by putting his Sudarshan chakra in front of the sun. And when he did that, Jayadrath and all of the enemy soldiers, including Duryodhana and company, put down their guard. And Arjuna was able, after Krishna took away the Sudarshan chakra from the sun, Arjuna was able to fire the arrow at Jayadrath. Okay, and I hesitate to tell the story of Shishupal. Those people may get scared. Shishupal, of course, was the cousin of Krishna, and he had the benediction that he could commit 100 offenses against Krishna without getting killed by Krishna, and he kept committing the offenses. And Krishna said, "You're getting close to 100," and he got close to 100, and then he got to 100, and Krishna did a little headectomy on him. Headectomy means that's one of the operations that Nalini Kant does in the hospital, headectomy. He cuts someone's head off. With his chakra, chakra is the ultimate weapon. It's actually the time factor too. Chakra and the time factor are the same thing. So we got 3 participants raising their hands. I can't tell who they are right now, but 3 people are raising their hands. Okay, Toshan Krishna, wow, it's great to see you.
Krishna, I'm at work. I remember the story of Prahlad Maharaj, how he was protected.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. Prahlad Maharaj, of course, had a father who had some emotional problems. And the father wanted to kill him in so many different ways, throwing him off a cliff, feeding him poison, throwing him in a pit of vipers. And each and every time, Krishna protected this small boy. Thank you for bringing out that point. He was Hiranyakashipu was actually the original child abuser. Really bad guy. Thank you. So who else has a story of Krishna protecting? There's actually so many stories of Krishna protecting the devotees. And this, the reason we're telling these stories is to inspire everyone to understand that. Put yourself on mute. To inspire everyone that if you take shelter of Krishna through chanting his holy names, everything will be all right. There'll be no problems. Only challenges and opportunities. Interesting. So, who else has a story? Anybody?
I do, Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Krishna Priya,
Okay. Well,
the
my
original
first,
Pujari of Radha Golokananda.
at first I was going to bring up about how Krishna was always saving his friends in Vrindavan. And then just now I thought about something a little bit different, how Krishna is in his deity form, saves the devotees. And what I was thinking about was the story of Gangamata Goswamini when she got brought by the white Gandhis into the temple of Jagannath, and then how the deity spoke. Would you like to tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, actually, there was a flood. She wanted to worship the Ganges in the Shveta Ganga. They actually flooded the whole area. It overflooded Jagannath Puri and carried her into the temple of Lord Jagannath. And when she got into the temple of Lord Jagannath, it was the middle of the night. And when she was discovered there the next morning, they thought that she had planned to steal the jewelry of the deities.
Mm-hmm.
And they arrested her, put her in jail. And then Lord Jagannath appeared before the king and informed the king about Gangamata Goswamini's position. And then the king took initiation from Gangamata Goswamini. So she was one of the great lady gurus in our Sampradaya.
Yeah.
It's a nice story.
Thank you.
Nice story. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
other people have stories. We had 3 more participants. Hari Bhakti. Oh, Lord Damodar and Shishupal deliverance. Well, Lord Damodar, Shishupal we already mentioned. That was interesting. Lord Damodar, that was Manigriva Nalakuvra. Anyway, this is a long story. How they had to remain as trees for so many celestial years, and they were saved by Krishna, who knocked them down. So, and we'll take one more, and then we'll just have general questions because it's already an hour. Don't like to go too
Hare
long.
Krishna, Gurudev. This is Adidev Das.
Oh,
Hare Krishna.
Adi Dave, the original personality.
I like how Krishna protects Brajvasis. Like he protects Nanda Baba from the snake, and also how he protects Gopas from Agasur.
Yeah, I mean, there's Vrindavan pastimes. There's so many stories of how Krishna protects the Agasura demon, which you just mentioned. All the coward boys marched into the Agasura's mouth, even though they actually were aware that he was a demon. But they were depending on Krishna, and then Krishna went in, expanded himself, and brought the coward boys back to consciousness and killed the Agasura demon. Yeah, actually, the whole in Vrindavan Leela or Govardhan Leela, Krishna Chandra also reminded me of Govardhan Leela. How Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill to protect the residents of Vrindavan. So our history is full of stories. We're not going to tell any more stories about that right now. The point I make is that our history is full of stories how Krishna protects his devotees and maintains his devotees. And one having faith in Krishna, Pandavas protected multiple times. Oh yeah, I know that. Anyway, we don't have a lot more time to tell stories, but Krishna protects his devotees, and these stories are told, these are true stories, are told to actually inspire us to take shelter of Krishna, remain always under the protection of Krishna, understanding Krishna is maintaining us and protecting us, especially in these times. You have this coronavirus right now. It's important to take precautions, whatever precautions we can take, and then depend on Krishna. And if Krishna wants that we leave this world, that's what Krishna wants. That's his protection. Because ultimately, each and every one of us will have to leave, but Krishna will always be with us. Wherever we go, Krishna will always be with us. That's why it's stated, Narayana Paraksare Nakataschana Bhivati Swarga Babarga Narakeshi to Apituyartha Darshana. that a pure devotee of Krishna, or frankly any devotee of Krishna, understands that you can go to heaven, you can go to hell, you can take birth here, take birth there, but Krishna will always be with you. Your best friend will always be with you. As long as you remember him and chant his holy name, still he's with you even if you don't remember him, but especially he's manifest when you remember him. That's our business. That's one thing that impressed me about chanting Hare Krishna when I first joined or took up Krishna consciousness, was that I could always have my best friend with me. Pretty good. And my best friend is the most powerful person. So you see, like Prabhupada, he was always very bold in everything he did because he understood that he was always backed up by Krishna. Oh, there was this interesting story. I just heard this story tonight when I was listening to some Prabhupada memories. Prabhupada was at anyway, he was at this festival, big festival, and the devotees had set up a tent for this festival, a Kumbh Mela festival. And somehow or other, devotees had dealt with a third party to rent the tent. In other words, the devotees had not directly rented the tent from the people who erected the tent. So they dealt with another party who paid the people who erected the tent. But the other party they dealt with took part of the money and didn't pay the full money to the people who erected the tent. You got that? So, okay. So Kumbh Mela, big, big tent, very expensive like that. So all the devotees, they went to the train station, and only Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada were left there at the tent. And then the people who erected the tent wanted to get their money. And in India, it's not like in America. You know, they wanted to get their money right then. And the people who erected the tent were from Punjab. And they were probably 6.5, 7 feet tall. I mean, some of you from India know that some of the people from Punjab are quite big. And so these several people from Punjab came up to Prabhupada, and they said to Prabhupada, "We want our money." And Prabhupada said, "We already paid you." And so actually they hadn't got their money because this other person, who happened to be a rejected member of the Gaudiya Math, didn't pay, or only paid partially. And then Prabhupada just, remember, at the same time, that Prabhupada's like physical stature was only, he was only like 5 foot 6 inches, and these people were 6 feet and a half or something like that. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he wasn't tall either. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj was basically, oh my God, what's going to happen here? How can we protect Prabhupada? Because no other devotees were around. And Prabhupada said, call for a rickshaw. And so they called for a rickshaw. And as they were screaming and yelling, Prabhupada calmly got in this rickshaw and rode away. Oh my God. Not to say we shouldn't pay people, but this wasn't Prabhupada's fault at this particular juncture. So Prabhupada was extremely bold. Imagine going to a foreign country with no money, in bad health, not knowing where you're going to go. I mean, that's really depending on Krishna. Understanding the order of the spiritual master and understanding that the order of the spiritual master contains within it the success potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyway, I think we have to end now. I mean, we're having so much fun, but at least I'm having fun. I don't know about the rest of you. We're having so much fun, but still, I think it's important that we end on time. Tomorrow evening, that's evening in America at 5 o'clock, we have the Sunday Feast program in America. 5 o'clock East Coast time in America. I'll be putting that out on our WhatsApp group. But 5 o'clock we have the Sunday Feast program, and I'll be talking about some subject matter then for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And that at 5 o'clock is 9 o'clock New Zealand time, and it's 7 o'clock. That's right. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, Monday morning. So Sunday night at 5 o'clock when we start to speak will be Monday morning at 9 o'clock New Zealand time, and also at 7 o'clock Australia time. And you can figure out the rest of the time zones if you like. So that'll be 5 o'clock East Coast America time tomorrow afternoon, or Monday morning when you're talking about the South Pacific. So anyway, thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Ki jai. We had 44 people here and quite a few people on Facebook watching. Thank you. Haribol.